Hey there, this is Ben Currier, self-proclaimed world's #1 failure. In this podcast, we'll learn about the hardest moments my guests faced and the failures they endured on their path towards making it. I hope you enjoy. Hey, it's Ben here, and in addition to this podcast, I also teach Microsoft Excel online. Visit excelexposure.com for more information and use the coupon code FAILURE for 20% off of the lifetime access to the course. Stay tuned after the episode for a little bit more information as to why it's so important to improve your Excel skills and unlock your inner Excel ninja. Thanks. Hey there, friends of failure, and welcome to this week's episode of the Failure Guy podcast. I am here with my friend Troy Holt. Troy, how are you doing this evening?
I'm well. I'm excited to be here with Ben and be a part of his podcast.
Well, I am super excited to have you here. Do you mind giving the listeners a little bit of a pump up? Give yourself a pump up, inflate your ego a bit, let your wings fly so that we can deflate that over the next hour or so with our failure conversation.
Yeah. So for those that don't know me, my name is Troy Holt, and I own a company called Troy Holt Consulting. And I'm the CEO of business. I'm already messing up. See, failure. Mm-hmm. I'm the CEO, and the CEO stands for Chief Encouragement Officer. My title is my personality. And I'm on a mission to eliminate financial illiteracy. I'm in the business to help educate people about financial illiteracy. I've been in the industry about 22 years, but licensed in 14 states. And that's insurance license. And, I've been married going on 31 years, have a 28-year-old son, 3 grandchildren who I adore. And I'm just excited to be here. I'm a John Maxwell coach, certified coach, speaker, and trainer. And I do have a podcast also called Troy Talks. So that's a little bit about me pumping myself up, Ben.
That's awesome. Well, Chief Encouragement Officer, where did you come up with that, or did you hear that somewhere else first?
Well, I think I heard it somewhere else first, but when I do, like on Clubhouse, when I do my introduction, I say my title is my personality, and it is. I'm an encourager by heart, always been, even before I came up with the title. If you talk to people who know me, they'll say Troy is always trying to encourage people. So yeah, that's my personality.
So it seems like encouragement in your field, or at least financial literacy, that might be difficult because a lot of people don't like talking about finances or money, or have weird issues wrapped up in that.
Yeah. Sometimes it is. Sometimes people are ashamed where they are. At a certain age. Sometimes people are ashamed because they are ignorant and don't know. And then sometimes, even in my community, the African American community, sometimes it's really hard because sometimes some of our people hadn't made it a priority. So sometimes it can be hard. Yeah.
Well, it's really difficult. I know when I was growing up, I didn't have any good financial role models in my life.
Right.
I was the first one to go to college, that kind of thing. So I wasn't able to glean advice from those who I was brought up by. And I also saw usually frivolous spending and not the right things. Yeah. So it can take a lot of time to unlearn some of those things too, especially if you haven't spent a lot of time dealing with it. So what's your approach to, if you just starting out with a new client, you don't know anything about them, what are the things you like to find out about first to figure out where they're at?
I like to, first of all, make them at ease and find out what is it that, they want to accomplish. What is it that, okay, so if money wasn't an issue, what is it that they would like to do, want to accomplish? And so I try to get them to talk to me and open up, just kind of paint a picture, because it's different from everybody. Some people say, hey, I want to retire at a certain age, and retirement might be they still working, but they're able to do whatever they want to. So it's different from everybody. Somebody else might say, hey, I want to just travel. So it's getting them to open up to tell me what is it that they want to accomplish if money wasn't an issue.
That sounds like a good idea, because you're already putting them in the forward looking, thinking of the place where they're going to go.
Correct.
Not where they're at.
Right.
And like get mired and all that.
Right.
Where, the shame and everything you mentioned, put them in a future state where they're getting what they want. And then that way you can figure out how to lead them there.
Correct. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. We just kind of set up a plan or blueprint or a roadmap and, help them to follow that, because it's not overnight, it's not an instant thing. It takes time if they follow the roadmap and, they can get there. But we know how it is, being life. Mm-hmm. We hit railroad. We hit roller coasters, and things happen, sometimes, and it throws off.
Absolutely. And so, as someone who teaches financial literacy, would you say you've always been a stellar financial person with your own life?
No.
Do you have any failures along that realm that you did?
That's why I'm on your podcast.
Yeah, I was hoping you had some personal failures that maybe led you to realize people need to learn it.
Yeah. So I tell people this. So I've been in the industry 22 years. And so I've every financial situation you can think of, my wife and I have experienced. So if somebody said, well, have you had a repossession? Yes, we had a car repossessed some years ago.
I've had that.
Right. Have you had somebody say, well, you ain't never had a foreclosure? Had a foreclosure on a house. Now here's the thing about, well, I'll tell at the tail end. Someone said, well, have you had you never had a bankruptcy? Had a bankruptcy. Someone may say, hey, you ain't never had your check garnished. If the IRS get to you, they garnish your check. Have had that.
Yep.
So almost every financial situation that a person can think of, me and my wife been married 30 years, we've had it, we've experienced it. And that's why I can share with people the failure and the shame of experiencing it. Some of it was I made mistakes that I shouldn't have. Like part of the issue when the foreclosure and the repossession, kind of all those kind of happened around the same time. Well, I did a career change. I got into the industry. Okay. I took a 50% pay cut. So I didn't change. I didn't adjust my lifestyle. I was still spending the money, but making less money. So I didn't adjust, and it kept going on and on. And when I got in the industry at first, I was excited to get in the industry, and they told us that, hey, you can make six figures in a year. And that wasn't true or accurate. It's going to take some time, but I'm thinking, okay, I'm taking a pay cut in a year. I'll be making six figures. So I could handle a year. And I didn't have preparation when I jumped, and so all that, caused those, and, it kind of was a domino effect. But here's the kicker. When my house was repossessed, I told a friend of mine, I said, in 2 years, I'll be back. So 2 years later, he brought it to my attention. He said, Troy, in 2 years, you'll be back. So in 2 years, I bought another house. I've been in the house now since 2005, the same house since 2005.
Oh, nice.
So in 2 years. Yeah. So people say, 7 years for foreclosure. That's not always the case. I was able to buy a house in 2 years. I came back. And so what I tell people is my thing is I never quit. I never gave up.
Yeah.
And I seriously believe, Ben, that even if I made all the right decisions, I think it was designed purposely by God for me to go through it so I can share with others.
Yeah. And you learn the most through failures. And I'm not sure if you're talking about if bankruptcy was at the same time, because I know 7 years is what they say bankruptcy takes to get off your record.
Correct.
And then there's the repossession of the car, and then the foreclosure on the house. Right. Those are all kind of happening at the same time, you're saying?
Kind of. I think the foreclosure, happened first, then the repossession of the car, and then probably the bankruptcy, kind of all at this kind of around the same time, maybe a year stuff. But everything was kind of one after another, a snowball effect. Now the garnishment from the IRS happened a little bit later, but that's part of my fault. I should have got in touch with them and took care of it, and I just kind of put it off.
I know that game very well.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I tell people, I'm grateful for where I'm at now. I can't say I've arrived, but I've learned. It caused me to learn some of the greatest blessings and tools to for myself and my family, and also for others.
Yeah, and it's amazing. You can know what's right to do and still not do it. I've had similar things. I mentioned the repossession. That was my dad filing for bankruptcy, but he co-signed on my car, so they took that away. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Even though I was making payments, I was like, "Come on, I'm doing the right thing." But I've withdrawn a 401k early, which is I knew at the time. I was like, "This is you should never do this. Why am I doing this?" Yeah. I didn't even know you could take a loan out against it. Right. So I probably would have done that if I knew. Yeah.
Right.
But sometimes you know the right answer, but you're like, oh, but I can use the money for this. I can get so much more, whatever. There's some opportunity or some kind of appeal to what you could use money for. Yeah. And a lot of times we overestimate that versus how much we're gonna have to spend or how much we're gonna need to live. Sure. And a lot of people don't want to talk about budgeting or getting on a plan. And so how do you get them wrapped around the mindset of that this is something not to be feared, but to embrace and to track and to actually care about?
Yeah, part of that is just kind of, I don't always go in depth of my story, but it's kind of, say, hey, I've been there. I know where you are. But one of the things that we try to get people to do, one of the things I tell people, say, well, what is one thing that I can do to change my mindset? What is one thing? It's a simple thing that a person can do to change their mindset. And I've been doing this for years. Even during the time of all that, I still was doing this. Mm-hmm. And that's pay yourself first. Now, I'm a person, I'm a man of faith, so I do take out my support for God, but I pay myself first. Now, many times I will have to use it. Mm-hmm. I put it aside, and many times I had to go in and use it. But what I was doing, I was conditioning myself and disciplining myself to pay myself first. Now, paying yourself first, whether it's $1 or whether it's $10, the amount is not the issue. Mm-hmm. It's the discipline of, because if you can't do $1, you can't do $10. So if a person can take either amount or a percentage, and I would take 10%. That's how I did mine. I would take 10%, and I would pay myself first. And again, so many times I would have to go in and use it because I was short somewhere and have to use it. But I didn't stop. I just kept paying myself first. And now, when I did do it, I'm paying myself more. Mm-hmm. I learned to kind of control my spending and put it under. So some of it though being is some people don't make a lot of money. What I'm saying? They really don't, trying to survive. But even when I was making $10, $12 an hour, I was still paying myself first.
So when you say paying yourself first, does that mean money that you can do whatever you want with, or does that mean money that do you have to survive on? What is it? What?
I still have to survive on.
Okay.
I still have to, like I said, many times I had to go use it, but I was conditioning myself and disciplining myself to always pay myself first.
But would it go into like savings, or is this money that you have in a pool to?
It would go into savings. Yeah, it would go into savings. It would go in savings. Then many times I may be short somewhere. I have to pull it out.
Paying yourself means saving it, not putting it in a spending account that's different from your business or something.
Right. Like that. Yeah. Not spending it, but I would have to spend it from the standpoint I've got to pay some is short, but I never stopped. Even during the bankruptcy, even during the foreclosure, I was still paying myself. I've always done that. And so now it's just a part of me. It's just a habit that I'm going to make sure I pay myself first.
That makes sense. And then the rest would be either money that's in the business or things that are on expenses and allocated towards just paying things. But the paying yourself first is at least making sure that you're not going to be stuck with no money and living paycheck to paycheck, right?
Correct. And then, one thing a person could do, I thought about this, but I never did it, but I thought about this. So let's say if I had a light bill and the light bill was $300, I thought about, well, why don't I pay $280? Just hold $20, you know what I'm saying? $20 back. Now they may charge me a little late fee for the rest of the balance, but at least I'm still paying myself somewhere. And I'm not saying everybody should do that. I'm just saying that's one of the things that I was thinking of, for a little bill here, a little bit there, just to make sure I pay myself. But I did end up doing it because I still just went on and just paid myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it can be tough. I mean, sometimes even people like to trick themselves into thinking it's a point system or something like that. Something where it's like divorced from all the negative feelings around money. Because a lot of times we can, even myself, I find myself, I used to say things like, I hate money.
Right.
And it's a weird thing to say because how are you going to get it and keep it if you hate it, So when you started out getting into teaching this, how'd you transition from whatever you're doing before to teaching financial literacy? What was the process?
Yeah, part of it was a process, but I came across the company that I'm with. So the How Money Works, it's a company that's actually the main company is called Wealth Wave. And so I love educating people. And so what I found is that they have a book, and it's called How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker. And the book is an easy read, even middle schoolers can read it, understand.
Mm-hmm.
And it just teaches people basics about finance. It covers 7 areas of financial education, what we call the 7 money milestones: proper protection, emergency fund, debt management, cash flow, growing wealth, and protecting wealth. So it covers those 7 foundations. And when I came across the company, I seen the book, and then once a month I do a financial presentation. Last Monday each month, the last Monday,
Mm-hmm.
and it's virtual and it's free. And so I do this financial presentation, and I was like, this is it, because I can educate people and help people and serve people. I have a servant's heart, and I, want to help educate people. Even if a person even don't do business with me, at least I feel good that I've offered some value to help them. Maybe one little nugget can help them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I made it my mission to be a part of this and have a mission to eliminate financial illiteracy, especially in America. And so when people get this education, they can see, okay, there's hope for me. Okay, I got something that I can build on. And so I've been doing this now. I've been with this company, How Money Works, now over a year, because most of our products that we use are insurance products.
Mm-hmm.
People don't like to talk about insurance, okay? Because
I get it. Yeah.
Right, yeah. But when you can show people strategies that educate them, that using the insurance that they don't like and like to talk about, and use it to their benefit, then it really helps people.
No, I found the same thing with talking about Microsoft Excel, because a lot of people,
Yeah.
either they're using it for that, or they just are scared of it in some sense.
Right.
So they kind of shy away from it,
Right.
just like other technology, but it especially has like a certain repulsion for people who don't like math or certain things like that. So trying to figure out how to get them more invested in learning something that will help them can be a challenge. But I like that you're coming from the service giving mindset, because that's where I started too. The first 8 years of my Excel training, I didn't have ads on my site. I didn't have a way to make money. I was paying money to teach people, basically.
Right.
So it's nice to be a go-giver, as they say, and to go actually educate those who can use it. Because even if you're not making money or making clients off it, just know the impact you're having in the world is important. But I know that you specifically, you're really good with relationship management and networking, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So, glad you said about impact. And so one of the things being is when I leave off the scene and people come to my funeral, the thing that I want to say, or my legacy, I want them to say is that Troy always tried to make an impact. And that's what I'm trying to do, is just make an impact, build those relationships. And so my business is based on building relationships with people first before, I try to sell them or offer them something. That's build that relationship. I had a young lady that I met on the phone a couple of days ago. So a potential client of mine is HR and referred to me her company.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing a class, part 1 this month and part 2 this month. 15,000 people that works at the company.
Oh wow, yeah. So B2B kind of thing.
Yeah. So but these are individual, that works there, the employees. So I'm doing the class. And so one of the young ladies, well, she was 24-year-old young lady. And you can go to my site and you can also find my calendar. So she scheduled some time with me, an appointment. And it was, I think, Monday or Tuesday. And she said she was kind of nervous at first. And so I explained to her, I said, look, don't be, I said, look, I said, I'm here to help. I said, I want you, first of all, I want you to know it's confidential. And, I'm here to help you. And I said, excuse the language or the terminology. I said, I don't believe in a one-night stand. I believe in a long-term relationship. And so she got it, and so I had to make sure I said that when people don't misconstrue it.
Yeah.
And so some people, one-night stands, they gonna get you, sell you, and they gone. You don't hear from them. They don't serve. They don't build no relationship. I'm not. It's a long-term relationship. So we talked probably about 45 minutes. And so I asked, I said, do you feel better? She said, yeah, I feel much better. She said, you made me okay. You allowed me to relax. And I told her a couple of things and we talked. So I said, make sure you had a class. And said, after the class, I said, then schedule an appointment with me, and then we go deeper in detail. But I was able to make her feel comfortable first, and she's got the mindset. I told her, I said, well, I commend you at 24, and you're trying to get this going and getting started. I said, I didn't have that mindset like that then. I said, but you do. And I said, if you keep that same mindset, you'll be way further along when you get my age.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like a muscle that you have to work out like any other one.
Correct.
This is just
Correct.
thinking about your finances and all that kind of stuff. So are there any big failures that you had when you started out going out into your own and doing all this consulting under your early on the 22 years? Were you just kind of flying by the seat of your pants, not really knowing what you were doing? Or
well, part of that failure being was I took the career change to get into the industry.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I didn't make adjustments. I didn't, like I said, I took a 50% pay cut. I was working for a civilian contractor. I'm former military.
Okay.
And I got a job doing what I did in the military at the civilian contractor. So civilian contractors, they can pay decent money. And I was, benefits and paying this. And then I go over here. And so I made a mistake from the standpoint of I didn't really think it through. I didn't prepare better, because again, I'm thinking, okay, in a year, okay, I can take a hit for a year.
Yeah.
And I'll be at six figures. So I'll be even making more than what I was on my current job, not just at the current, I'll be making more. Well, I didn't make adjustments. I didn't put things, aside. So as a career change, or as people be going into entrepreneurship, you need to maybe have something aside, because if things happen, all businesses have cycles, they have ups and downs.
Yep.
And so how do you get through those downtime? I wasn't prepared for that, but I learned now to make more wiser and thoughtful decisions, because it affected my wife too. So,
of course, yeah.
So I had to take her in consideration. So those are just some things that I've learned through those failures, that if somebody came to me, I say, hey, have some reserves.
Yeah.
And my wife she was working, kind of like part-time, not making a lot of money. So I'm the main breadwinner. So, So we had to adjust to that.
Yeah. I think if anybody out there is hearing, take this class, you'll make X amount of money in X amount of days or whatever. I'd say that's probably not the right kind of a coach or person to be dealing with, because while it's possible to do even six figures in a year, mostly everybody won't. So, they're setting people up for failure in terms of how to think about that and like how to plan for it. So I think nowadays it's probably a little bit easier to see through some of the car salesman type tactics.
Yeah.
But back then, I mean, this was like, early internet days, right?
Yeah, it was 2000. And I would say this, it was 19 of us in that class, because they had a class before and I think a class after. Mm-hmm. And out of 19, I would say now only three are still in the industry. Well, maybe 4 is still in the industry. And 2 are still in the industry because they teamed up together.
Yep.
And they were able to, because of their connections, they were able to get like their parents, and they was get the parents had money, so they was able to get a couple of deals there. And then they knew somebody, and they were able to get a big business. So they were able to get some big things.
Sure.
And they teamed together. So that allowed them to stay in the industry. And then a friend of mine, we ended up became friends there. He's technically in the industry, but he's a State Farm agency owner.
Yep.
But he left. He worked for Edward Jones for a short while. And then he was a barber also. He was a retired Air Force, but he was a barber also. Mm-hmm. So he was a manager for Walmart in the Georgia area for a while. He did that about 10, 12 years. And then probably now in the last 6, 7, 8 years, he's been a State Farm agency. So he's technically in the industry. And then I'm still in the industry.
It sounded like almost none of you got to where you were from that training. It's just that you have the desire, the tenacity, the networking skills.
Correct. Right.
And that's probably part of it. I mean, like, just like a good parent is the kind who would buy a book on parenting, even if they don't read it. Like, that's a good type of parent who wants to do the right type of thing. The person who signs up for that kind of a class might be the kind of person who's a go-getter, wants to improve their life. So you might have, higher odds of just people making it because they're the kind of person who'd go out and put themselves in that kind of situation. But a lot of times, like you're saying, most of the people probably didn't benefit that much from it. So it's great when it's people like you and others who I see who are always about providing value first, and then developing the relationship beyond that, because it's powerful. I mean, the not only the feeling of reciprocity when you are given value, but just it is really mostly about who you know and not what you know a lot of the time.
True. That's true, Ben.
And I know you've been good at growing your network. Is there any tips you'd give for how to grow your network in ways that feel good?
Yeah. I probably, one of the things I would say, if people, social audio, man, that's the key right now. And I don't know how long this is going to last, but if you really want to grow your network, especially from a virtual standpoint, social audio, because Clubhouse, is one that I got started on. And so you see people like Bobby Umar, and me and Bobby do a LinkedIn audio weekly. But I met Bobby. Well, we were connected on LinkedIn, but I didn't really get to know Bobby and the opportunity until we got on Clubhouse.
Yeah.
And so I would come up on stage and speak and add value. And so I tell people, social audio, if you can get on there and then start being on stages and adding value and supporting people. And what it does is people start seeing you, that you're one, that you're not just trying to sell, you're not just trying to pitch, you're really trying to serve and trying to help. And it allows you, I built a community on there. So right now, if you social audio, Twitter Spaces, LinkedIn audio, and Clubhouse, if you're hearing me, if you start getting involved in those spaces, and I started out co-moderating with people before I started doing my own rooms, and just co-moderating, support and help. But it also, I learned. And if people start doing that, then they could build a tribe or community, So I think social audio is probably I think right now it's more effective than a person just making posts on social media, because people hear you, they resonate with your passion, and they really connect with you. So I think social audio is the way to go.
Yeah. I mean, you and I just talked yesterday on LinkedIn audio, and that's why we're having this conversation today.
Sure did. Right. Yes. And Ben, and those that's listening. So Ben sent me the link, and then the next day, that day, I scheduled it for the next day.
I did not expect that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But I didn't mind. I had a pretty open day. But the great thing I think about the audio space is, well, besides it being very difficult to have someone who's disingenuous come across as genuine,
right?
Like genuine, because it's harder, especially the longer they're on stage, to have someone keep up that act. You can really kind of see through a lot of it or hear through a lot of it. But I like the low barrier to entry in terms of versus a Zoom call or something where there's video. Audio, you can be doing other things. You don't have to always be in front of your computer. You don't have to always be in the right scenario, because especially if you're not talking and you're just chiming in every so often. There's a lot more ability to do that in your downtime versus some other things. And I like the live interactivity of it. It's like happening now. Even Clubhouse with replays, I don't really go to the replays that much, because there's something about that's happening now that is powerful for me, at least.
I'm not big necessarily on the replays per se, but what I am going to start doing, I think they're big for content. So I can take and use some of the content from the replay and repurpose it and put it out there. So that's why I think the replays is huge for me, is from that perspective. But I don't just have time trying to do everything, listen to podcasts and be live in the rooms, and then trying to listen to replays. It's much. But if I can use it for repurposing content, I think it's huge.
Yeah, because you can just save the audio file too, and then edit it and things like that. Stay tuned for more Failure Guy right after this quick message from our sponsors. Thank you.
This is Justin Mason with A Mostly Green Life, the podcast that's making sustainability and our connection to the environment more fun and approachable for the eco-curious.
For the people who want to do the right thing but are confused or maybe just overwhelmed with all the eco advice out there.
For those interested in learning what the best things to do are in any given eco dilemma, we want to join you on an eco journey. Wow, that's a lot of eco hyphens.
From health and wellness topics to at-home sustainability practices to conservation efforts we can all support. We'll be talking to sustainability pioneers, regular people like you and me trying to do the right thing, and dig into environmental issues without all the politics and polarization going on. A Mostly Green Life podcast is here to save the day.
And the planet.
Well, that might be a tall order, but if we all take small steps together, we can make a big difference and have fun along the way.
Stay tuned by subscribing to A Mostly Green Life podcast. We look forward to going on this eco journey together.
I'm excited about LinkedIn Audio because, as we mentioned, that's how we met. But there's only 200 people, I think, right, who have the ability to host a room.
Right now it's about 430. They added another 200 a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if they added any more now, but I've seen in the group. So it's about 430, and it looks like they're probably doing waves of adding people.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I'm excited because, well, I think both of our clients, financial people and people who need to learn Excel, my audience is more on LinkedIn than they are on Instagram, or they're more likely to be reached in that way. For me, well, only because I don't use Instagram enough. I don't use all the platforms to the best of my ability, but I think LinkedIn's a really good spot for that. And since it's just coming out,
correct,
being on the forefront of that is nice because I missed. I was probably a year late to Clubhouse, so you feel like you miss out on a lot of the evolution of it, and also seeing how things change. So I'm excited to see with LinkedIn Audio the rollout to other folks, but also just the changes over time that are made to improve it. And I'm excited that we're kind of in the ground floor of that.
Yeah, me too, Ben. I think LinkedIn is going to have. I was on a webinar. The lady was from LinkedIn, and she said, using numbers between that and Facebook, she said the average salary on Facebook in America was $32,000. LinkedIn is $65,000. I think it's more. I've seen numbers more than that. Mm-hmm. So with LinkedIn, you have a different demographic. You have people that can pay, have the ability to pay, and understand that they're there to do business. Whereas Clubhouse is more social. You do have some business things going on, but it's more social, more laid back. Whereas LinkedIn, more professional, more business. And so I think if LinkedIn get it right, they're going to dominate.
Yeah. And I'm excited because I'm switching I do primarily B2C at the moment, and I want to be doing more B2B stuff. And that'll be where LinkedIn also is very helpful because, the HR person for whatever company I'm going to eventually talk to about getting them on my course. Right. They're probably on LinkedIn, versus some of the other places I might meet individuals like Clubhouse and things like that. Yeah. But it's just nice to have so many options. I'm wondering, because we're kind of seeing the wild west of social audio right now. I'm wondering who the players are going to be in a couple of years or how it's going to evolve. But I'm really excited because for a long time we didn't have this social audio thing. I mean, I guess podcasts kind of came along first as like an audio consumption thing, but now a live audio chat feature. It's cool the way the different implementations and stuff, different ways of doing it, but with LinkedIn, its connection to your profile is like super important in terms of growing that following. So I'm just excited about it. And I think if anybody listening hasn't tried out Clubhouse is a mobile app primarily. I think you can do some stuff online, but mostly it's an app. But LinkedIn, if you can get into some of these audio events, you search for, I think, hashtag LinkedIn audio or hashtag LinkedIn audio event. Yeah. And even if you're not one of the people who can host, you can attend one of those. Right. And yeah, check it out because it only takes a cell phone or a microphone of some sort so you can talk and you can get a lot of value. I mean, the room we were in yesterday, there's so much information given out that it's pretty crazy. So what do you have a platform that is your favorite of all the socials?
It's hard to say. Just because I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Clubhouse. Twitter, I'm not on as much. Some years ago, I was heavily on Twitter, and Facebook, I pull back a lot. I have a group there that I kind of put stuff there, so I'm probably more on LinkedIn and more on Clubhouse currently. Yeah, even increasing my LinkedIn presence because I really want to build a community even bigger there than, all the other platforms. But just because of, my potential clients are there,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so it's getting more social. It's not a resume hub anymore, or it's not just a
job search,
white collar job search. I'm not saying you should go in there and post everything you post on Facebook, but people are more receptive. I will tell you this: the LinkedIn post that got the most views and the most comments was last year. Was it last year? Yeah, last year. I posted about my wife and our 30th anniversary. I posted a picture and I posted a short story. And I told how my wife, I tried to talk to her the first time, she rejected me. Tried to talk to her the second time, she rejected me. And the third time, she said yes. And I said, sometimes no just means not now. And the 30th anniversary, and that got like 55,000 views. And I can't remember how many comments. It's a story.
Yeah.
A personal story.
And it involves failure.
True.
If you didn't press on.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
How did she reject you the first two times? Was it soft? Was it a soft rejection?
She just, it was both soft rejection, but she just was not interested at all, And so thank you for bringing that one to my attention, being about that failure, man, because it was rough, man, because, I couldn't get off my mind. I'm like, man, and I tried all my little tricks and stuff and none of them worked. She was not falling for them. And then one day I waited to the last minute. And we was at church. I met her at church and waited to the last minute. And I was sitting down in the car. I said, sit down in the car waiting. I said, this is the last time. If she says no, this is it. And so I said, her maiden name was Lindsay. I said, Sister Lindsay, I said, will you go out with me? And that was the question. And she said, when? And when she said when, I knew that was it. So that was April of 91. And then that September 91, we were married. And we've been married now going on 31 years.
That's amazing. I wonder about all the ultimatums that no one ever knew about, Like if you had said yes this one time, your life would have been totally different. But there was some ultimatum you didn't know was on the table. And that day you felt weird. Like who knows how your life would have changed? Because if she said no, you wouldn't have tried a fourth time, is what I'm hearing.
Right. Yes. I had made up in my mind that was going to be it.
Well, that's awesome, though. And congratulations on so many years together. That's certainly impressive. Yeah. But it is interesting when things like that. So that's basically a social media post that's not related to business necessarily. So it's funny that would be one of the more higher performing ones.
Yeah. So and there's a young lady named Shara. She's on Clubhouse too. So Shara probably now, if I'm guessing, she probably got 80,000 followers on LinkedIn. But she would just tell a story about how she had with depression. She was a social worker and how she got divorced from an ex-husband, blah blah blah. She just tell a story, and her blew up. Told how she kept failing. You need to get on your podcast.
Connect me. I'm happy to.
Okay, I'll do that. I just thought about this. How she kept failing the exam for licenses for social work. I think that's what it's called. So now she teaches a course on Clubhouse how to pass, and she's monetizing it, and she's making six figures.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's cool. I mean, I love stories like that. I always thought, so when I started teaching Excel, all my stuff doesn't have my face. It's like screen recorded and I'm talking. I was like, why do they care? They don't care about what I have to say about me. And a lot of times you go to a YouTube video and it's like half the thing is him talking about himself. And you're like, just give me the tip. I want the thing. So I was like hyper focused on making sure it was info and not showing as much as my story. And now I'm realizing people don't just want information. They also want to have a connection with the person as well. So it seems like you do a good job with that. Is that something you've always excelled at, or, and no pun intended, but is it something that you've is it a muscle you had to flex really hard over time, or is it something that came naturally?
I am. So let me put it like this. This would probably help. I am a true extrovert and a people person, but I'm one of the most private extroverts. So I don't always share private stuff. I selectively at the right time to help someone. And so I remember when my mom passed in 2014. So my mom passed in 2014. And so people were on Facebook, and I was very heavy back then on Facebook. So people were saying, hey, offer my condolences, blah, blah, blah. And people, just kept posting and going on.
Yeah.
So I finally had to reach out and say, hey, while everybody's asking what's going on, my mother passed. I'll come back with more details, because I would just want go post it on social media.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I am. I'm not afraid to share, but selectively. But also my wife is an introvert. So she's very, very, very private. So I have to be cognizant of her. Well, honey, why you say that? Why you tell people that? So I have to be cognizant of that.
Did she hate the 55,000 people who liked that? I mean, the amount of reach it had?
Yeah, I don't even know I don't know. See, my wife is not on LinkedIn. Well, she has an account, but she's never on there. So
she panicked seeing that number, I mean, is what I mean.
No, I don't think she'll panic, but she will say something like, who are these people, honey?
Well, yeah, because I mean, even if you're not putting yourself out there necessarily, being introvert, you don't want people getting that inside look unless you know who it is and why. But at least it was a positive, supportive post of her. I'm sure.
Yeah.
And if it was a complaint about whatever, being told to do the dishes.
Yeah. Well, my wife is, I mean, anything like that, being like my wife and I, we got COVID at the end of December and into January. Again, now I'm not quick to go put something out there, but if I would put something out there, my wife would be, well, honey, why are you putting that out there? But my wife would have been like that,
Yeah.
Again, I'm not afraid. I don't mind, especially if I can help somebody, but I do have to, be cognizant of my wife and how it affects her. And, she's introverted and very private.
Yeah. It's weird for me because like I share a lot on this podcast, but I don't post on Facebook ever about myself or like what's going on in my personal life, because it's like, oh, I'm not on there looking at other people's stuff, so that's part of it, and because I don't care. But also, like, I try to be. I forget who said, like, you're more of a social media producer, not a consumer. I've heard that before, so I try to not be too sucked into it. But also, I don't mind sharing when there's a reason to, when I'm providing value. If it's like on this podcast, the whole point is to talk about the hard times and things like that, so it makes sense to me. But otherwise, when people are putting like everything about their life online, to me, it seems weird. Because you're not putting the bad stuff on there. Usually, a lot of people are putting the highlights and then living a life that they're, or pretending to live a life that they're not necessarily leading. And I think that's why this kind of thing is important, because you need to talk about the struggle. I mean, to become successful, you have to fail and you have to get comfortable with messing up, making mistakes.
True.
And trying new things.
True.
So before we get to like the forward-looking stuff, is there anything else on failure, on the subject of failure, that you want to mention to the audience before we start talking about like where you're headed?
Yeah. One thing I want to say is, remember, failure is an event, but defeat is a spirit. So what I mean by that is failure can be a one-time event, but if you get in a spirit of defeat, you'll give up and you quit. So failure doesn't mean that a person is a failure. It just means that something didn't work out. They didn't have success, but they can get up and move forward. And the other thing I want to say is we learn more in failure than we do success. And so take, for example, if a person is taking a test, and most of the time, if the test is a 70-point, 100-point test, and passing is 70, if a person makes a 69, probably 99% of the time, they don't care about the 69. They want to look at the 31. Why did I miss it? How did I miss it? That's where the learning come from. That's where the growth come from, on the mistakes you made, because you already got the 69. You care less about that. So I tell people that that you learn more on the in the valleys than you do the mountaintops. See, when you're on the mountaintops, everybody wants you. They're your friend, and they want to come around you to support you. But when you're in the valley and the low places and the failure, that's when you have your true friends, because they're going to with you when you're up or when you're down. And so just remember that those that when you were nothing, when you were low, when you were failing, and those that stick with you, don't forget those people when you get to the top.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I agree with, failure not being a final destination, but it's, a stepping stone, because the only true failure, as you mentioned earlier, is quitting.
Correct.
When you shouldn't, because that's the ultimate failure, is not not doing the thing you should do out of fear of failure or fear of doing the thing. So I think a lot of people tend to overhype in their mind the amount of hurt they'll get if they pursue something and it doesn't work out versus what they could gain from doing that thing. And like the hurt and the worry is a lot more real for them than the possible success. And usually if you fail, like, let's say you want to go make a business tomorrow doing whatever, if it fails, there's like 10 people who saw you fail. I mean, it's not like everybody saw you fail because you don't have a business, you don't have like an audience. So it's like you're usually making these mistakes in front of a very small audience in order to then get the skills to not make those mistakes in front of bigger ones. So fail, smaller at first, or fail big. Either way, you should be trying things out. You should be doing new things. And like, even our discussions, hearing how we failed, hearing about a foreclosure, it's totally different than actually experience a foreclosure, because you will not forget how difficult that and how lengthy that process was just to get back to where you want it to be, or like, and so it's amazing that even when sharing it, you really got to experience it sometimes in order for it to actually stick. True. So being a guest on the show, you get a get out of fail free card, which is similar to the Monopoly card, the get out of jail free card. But what you can do is you can use it to pursue a passion or a hobby or a thing that you've avoided or didn't do because of the amount of failure that would be involved. So some people say, like, I would be an actor, I'd be a singer, or whatever. Maybe working out is a problem, whatever the thing would be. Is there something in your life you'd use a get out of fail free card so that you didn't have to fail at whatever that is?
Probably get out of fail free card. What I probably would use it, probably would be to go to school. Not now, but I'm just saying, if I had go to school and get my bachelor's, have associates, get my bachelor's, and become an attorney.
Oh, okay. So you wish you were in what kind of law?
Probate.
Oh, I guess I don't know what that even means.
Wills and trust.
Okay.
That area.
Interesting. So you didn't know that then. This is what you would have done with your knowledge now going back. Right.
Yeah. I definitely would have went to school. And got my bachelor's, because I failed where I didn't go to. When I got out of school, I went to a tech school for about 5 weeks, and I quit because I was working and I was dating this girl, and then trying to go to school, and I couldn't handle all these things. And some had to go.
Obviously, the girl took priority.
Right, yes. Yes. Some had to go. The girl, I always liked her for years, and we finally hooked up. I couldn't let my job go because I had a car note. I was young, so I let school go, and then probably a month later, me and her broke up.
Yep, that's how it is. Yeah. But hey, prioritization. You learned from that, I'm sure, as well. And then what's the next thing you're going to fail at? Is there a new endeavor, a new thing you're going towards that you haven't, even whether it's the LinkedIn audio thing or any of these things that you're going to fail? Well, I say, instead of fake it till you make it, fail it till you nail it. So what's the next thing you're going to fail at until you get better?
My business, continue to grow that. I think I'll continue to fail at that, make mistakes here and there. And, but I'm, have made up in my mind not to quit and not to give up. So
the new ways of reaching more people that you're considering, or new ways of marketing the business, or any kind of
marketing the business, building, because I can build a team. So building the team and marketing the business, yes. So I think I'll make a ton of mistakes. But it won't quit.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear you won't quit.
Yeah.
Where can the listeners, go to find you? What's the best place where they can connect with you?
Sure. One place they can connect with me is on my website. It's troyholt.com. They can go to my website and find me. Also, LinkedIn and Clubhouse LinkedIn, I'm under Troy Holt, and Clubhouse, I'm under Troy Holt. I'm also on Twitter, Troy D. Holt under Twitter, and then Facebook. I have a few pages. Do I have a Troy Holt? Yeah, I have a Troy Holt Facebook page, a few pages.
I forget what I have all the time.
Right, yes. So, but if you really want to connect with me, LinkedIn is probably one of the best places. If you want to connect with me and interact with me, LinkedIn and Clubhouse. But I do have a website, troyholt.com.
Well, I will make sure and put all those in the show notes, including a link to your podcast you said you have as well.
Yes, I forgot about that. Podcast is titled Troy Talks.
Troy Talks. Perfect. Well, I'll make sure to put that in there. I appreciate you joining and sharing some of your failures with us. And I look forward to talking with you more on LinkedIn.
Ben, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Would you like to be more efficient, productive, and confident in your work at the office? Over 750 million people worldwide use Excel, yet it's still a misunderstood and frequently misused tool. That's why I created Excel Exposure, so you can work smarter and not harder. The Excel Essentials course gives you over 5 hours of in-depth video lessons, plus it comes along with my master workbook, which has every function, shortcut, and all the examples to follow along. Investopedia actually included my course in their list of 6 best online Excel classes of 2021, saying it's best for visual learners. As someone who's an expert in failure, I can certainly teach you and your team how to avoid spreadsheet failures and create bulletproof Excel documents. Use the coupon code FAILURE for 20% off of the lifetime access price. Visit excelexposure.com for more information and also my existing award-winning free training. Thanks for joining me on the Failure Guy podcast. If you enjoyed it, feel free to tell somebody. And don't forget, always try to fail it till you nail it. Till next time.